Lubrication reliability in the time of COVID. We'll begin our presentation, and afterwards, we're going to go and actually take some questions and answers. Hi, welcome back to our webinar, Lubrication Reliability in the Time of COVID-19. Today we're going to talk about which lubrication certification is right for you. We're going to look at 10 different certifications today, 8 offered up by the International Council for Machinery Lubrication, and 2 offered up by the Society of Tribologists and Lubrication Engineers. Now there's a few others. One in particular offered up by the National Lubricating Grease Institute, and the Society of Tribologists and Lubrication Engineers offer up a couple others as well. But for our purposes today, we're just going to look at these 10. Now, the two organizations that stand out as global leaders in the world of lubrication certifications, STLE and ICML. Now, back in 1944, the Society of Tribologists and Lubrication Engineers became a premier technical society serving more than 13,000 individuals and 250 companies and organizations worldwide. They comprise the tribology and lubrication engineering business sector.
They support a lot of distinguished men and women throughout a variety of professional education and certification programs. Now, the International Council for Machinery Lubrication, that's a vendor-neutral, not-for-profit organization. They are founded to serve the global industry as a world-class authority on machinery lubrication that advances to try to optimize asset reliability, utilization, and costs.
ICML is an independently chartered organization consisting of paid professionals, staff members, and even volunteer committees. I know Rich, myself, and Matt and Mike have served on a bunch of these committees as well. They're a balanced membership of a bunch of different professionals on all facets of lubrication, from research to development to production, even on to application and use. They currently recognize probably about 8,700 different certified professionals globally. They provide different types of certifications, which we're going to get into. ICML. Being in the business of lubrication for more than 75 years, STLE had the reputation of being an academic and sales-based organization. Their membership, from university professors on through to research and development scientists. And then you had your sales professionals, those looking to gain the professional edge over the competition by having a CLS behind their name. And that's not necessarily accurate, though, because while our membership is pretty strong in the world of lubricant, it's also pretty darn strong in the finished product sector as well. There are many members from instrument manufacturers, raw material suppliers, oil analysis labs, as well as a lot of end users. Now, they do offer 4 certifications. They require work experience, professional training, and passing the exams. The CLS, which many of you all know about, Certified Lubrication Specialist, as well as the OMA, the Oil Monitoring Analyst. There's 2 different levels for that, level 1 and level 2. We're going to just talk about level 1 for OMA today. And they also offer up the Certified Metalwork and Fluid Specialist certification, the CMFS. There's not many folks with that anymore, unfortunately. Maybe we'll talk about that in a future webinar as well. STLE has recognized approximately 1,800 professionals globally. The first certification we're going to talk about is Machinery Lubrication Technician Level 1. So technicians responsible for some daily lubrication tasks, such as including oil changes and top-ups and grease and bearings, proper storage and care of lubricants and dispensing devices. For a certification like this, you have to have at least 1 year experience. You've got to pass the exam. It's recommended you have at least 16 hours worth of classroom time. Well, MLT also has a level 2. That's responsible not only for technicians and engineers, though. And those are the ones that are actually looking to manage a lubrication team, selecting lubricants as well as troubleshooting, maybe troubleshooting some abnormal lubricant performance results out there, and actually supporting machine design activities too. For this particular type of certification, you need to have at least 2+ years work experience and go through about 24 hours worth of classroom time. You don't need to have a level 1 to get a level 2 here. A lot of times, people have been around for a while that just circumvent the level 1 to go for level 2. I don't know if that's always the best idea. You actually want to learn a little bit later on that there's things covered in level 2 that aren't covered in level 1, and vice versa as well. I think level 1 provides a good foundation to go on to level 2. Now this certification, Machine Lubricant Analyst Level 1, the MLA1, this is compliant with the ISO 18436-4. And a little bit different because with the MLAs, in order to progress onto the levels, you just can't test into level 2, level 3. You have to start with level 1 now. It wasn't always the case, but it is now. And this targets technicians responsible for some daily activities, lubrication tasks, and some basic lubricant analysis for machine condition monitoring, and also includes oil changes and top-ups, greasing bearings, getting involved in lubricant receiving, and even proper storage and care of lubricants, dispensing devices, and some basic oil analysis. The level 1 MLA and the level 1 MLT share about 75% of the same content, but the MLA goes into a lot more detail with oil analysis. Now the Machinery Lubricating Analyst level 2, MLA level 2, goes into a lot more detail than level 1 did. We're going to get into this a little bit later on when we start looking at the content that's covered. But here, they're looking to target the technicians responsible for not only the daily activities with lubricant analysis and machine condition monitoring, but now they start getting into a little bit more where they go into performance of simple on-site tests as well, maybe running some on-site tests, and even managing test results and performing some simple diagnostics. The level 2, you have to have at least 2+ years experience and go through another 24 hours worth of classroom time. You have to have the level 1 before you can get the level 2 now. Now the Machinery Lubrication Analyst level 3, the MLA level 3. This one goes into a lot more detail than the 2 and the 1. Once again, this one targets technicians, but also includes engineers responsible for managing the lubricant analysis function. And these tasks include team management, even selecting the test slates for various types of equipment, setting alarms as well, getting involved in sampling system design, maybe even exploring instrumentation and software selection on site, getting involved in some more advanced diagnostics. So here you need at least 3+ years worth of experience, 24 hours worth of classroom, and you have to have a level 2 and a level 1 in order to get the level 3 now. Now Laboratory Lubricant Analyst level 1 is primarily designed for technicians performing some daily activities, running the ASTM test protocols and the various instrumentation associated with lubricant, oil, and grease testing. The tasks typically also include receiving and handling samples, performing tests, reporting the results, inspecting the data from the individual test methods. For this, you have to have at least 1+ years experience. Requires 24 hours worth of classroom time as well. And this is another ISO compliant certification, the 18436-5 in this case. Now the LLA2 goes into a lot more detail. This is for lab managers primarily, but not necessarily exclusively. It's originally designed for that, but also really for diagnosticians as well. Those are the folks that are responsible for producing lubricant analysis data for machine condition monitoring, performing some of these tests and analysis, as well as diagnosing lubricant failure mechanisms. They get involved in instrument calibration, establishing SPC charts for them. Here you have to have at least 2+ years experience, 24 hours additional classroom time. You have to be a level 1 LLA before you can be a level 2. This is actually a fantastic certification. I have to say it's probably my favorite certification because it really does go right down into the really details and depth of oil analysis. It's something that is actually a great certification for those going beyond just a laboratory manager or a technician, a diagnostician, an end user, say a mine or a process planner or something like that, even a fleet. Maybe you have one of those individuals who really gravitate towards oil analysis and really want to get truly into it and really understand the nuances of it. This particular certification is perfect for those folks. And you would never think of it because you think the LLA2 is just for a lab manager or a technician or a diagnostician. I don't think so. I think this is a great certification for folks who really want to delve deep and become an expert in the world of oil analysis. Now we have the Machinery Lubrication Engineer, the MLE. This is a relatively new certification. It's only been around for a little over a year now. This is an engineering level certification. It's targeted at reliability and asset management professionals. You know, this has got a really strong emphasis on lubrication and analysis. It's ideal for those involved in some daily activities associated with development and implementing and management of lubrication programs. It's intentionally structured for those with the responsibility to guide and facilitate their organization in a tactical step towards the ISO 55001 certification. You know, this is both an engineering and a management level certification. For those providing general engineering support through a user education program, including maybe lubricant selection or lubrication and sampling hardware selection, implementation, overall lubrication program setups, optimizing PMs, inspection, and lubricant analysis troubleshooting. This is really one of those creme de la creme. It's like a PhD in the whole thing. You know, if you think of the MLT and the MLA as a bachelor's degree, this thing right here is maybe it's even a postdoc for Pete's sakes. It's really, there's only about 50 of us in the whole world that have this, and it's quite a bear of an exam to pass. But I tell you what, got some great content to study, good conversations with other folks that are trying to get their MLE, and I tell you, it's something to strive for. It's a fantastic certification, very useful. It takes about you have to have 5 years work experience at least, and I recommend 40 plus hours worth of classroom time. And I know ICML doesn't necessarily have a requirement now for classroom time for this certification, but just from experience, this is not something to be taken lightly. But I tell you what, when you do achieve this particular type of certification, it really does mean a lot. Now the CLS, the Certified Lubrication Specialist, the granddaddy of them all. You know, sales guys always want to get their CLS. They'd throw that little 3 letters behind their name on their business card. They throw it down on the desk of a purchasing agent or a maintenance manager. And they impress the living heck out of those guys, right? They feel good. And I tell you why, because that CLS is not an easy exam to pass. In fact, you hear people banging about, oh, I missed it by 3 points. You know what? STLE doesn't report percentage. At least they never did. Maybe they do this year. They have a percentage. The bottom line is it's not an easy exam to pass. So if you failed the first time, don't feel so bad. Take it again for Pete's sake. You'll be all right. But it's not a very easy exam to pass. It does really mean something, though. It's got good world international recognition. There's only I'd say about 1,200 people with it. We'll go into the content, which it covers, but really it's not limited just for sales guys or folks who want to impress. The core responsibility is really about evaluating and selecting lubricants to use and to purchase. CLSs can go out and conduct lube surveys and train lubricators and understand how to assemble a work list and develop maybe quality assurance protocols and get involved in used oil analysis programs and troubleshoot and problem solve. A lot more than just something to have behind your name. Actually, it can be very useful. Requires about 3+ years work experience and at least 32 hours worth of classroom. You've got to pass the exam, offered up by STLE as well. Now we have the Oil Monitoring Analyst, OMA1. We're not going to talk about the OMA2 today. I know there's a few of you out there that got it. It's a fantastic certification. I think that maybe they offer up that exam maybe once a year. Christ, I don't even know if, I don't know the last time that was even offered up. I'm going to get one of those someday. Anyway, so OMA, it's an oil monitoring analyst involved in predictive maintenance professionals. They oversee oil analysis programs back in the shop in the plant. They recommend for mechanics and engineers and operators and even tradesmen, even on-site personnel whose core responsibilities are oil sampling and reviewing oil analysis reports, performing correct test methods, and maintaining the overall care and equipment and feeding of the assets. Something like this is going to require at least 1 year work experience and 24 hours worth of classroom hours. There's only about 500 folks in the whole world with OMA1. I think there's only probably about 40 people in the whole world with OMA2 for that matter. But it's a great certification. It's a lot different than the MLA 3 and the LLA 2 in the respect, but I'd actually say it's kind of if you're going to try to combine the three, it'd probably be, an OMA would be really reminiscent of a combination of the LLA 2 and the MLA 3. Great certification to have, though. Now we're going to look into is the content. the stuff that you're responsible for, the body of knowledge, if you will, for these various certifications, from the MLE, MLT1, MLT2, the CLS, the OMA1, LLA1, LLA2, MLA1, MLA2, and MLA3. When we first look at this, there's approximately 11 different sections within the MLT 1 and 2. The MLT1, level 1, has 8 sections. And you'll see in parentheses 1, 2. That's the MLT2, though, goes into a lot more depth. Now, the exams for the MLT2, they are going to have maintenance strategy and lubrication theory and lubricants and selection application, just like the one, but the questions go into far more detail. You have to know a lot more. So when you take an MLT2 class, it's going to be structured similarly to the MLT1, but the content's going to go into a lot more detail. And you're also going to cover things in it that you hadn't covered in the one, which is the lubricant formulation, grease applications, and lubricant testing as well. That wasn't covered in MLT1, but it will be in MLT2. Now, you can go take an MLT2 without getting the one. I don't recommend it. Not because I want to go and train and get money out of your pocket for that kind of thing. Actually, it's not that at all. It's that I really, truly believe you have to start on the first and then work on to the second. It's like taking algebra. You don't take algebra 2 without taking algebra 1. You don't take calculus without first taking trigonometry. You can't take organic chemistry without taking general chemistry. There's a process, a procedure, a protocol, a path, if you will. Take it. Now look at the MLA, the 1s, 2s, and the 3s. These are compliant. Here you can't take the 2 without first having the 1, or the 3 without having the 2 or the 1. You have to take them in sequence. And this is really, I think it's good. I really do. I mean, how many people go from high school straight on to the pros? Not many. I mean, there's a few of us that are LeBron Jameses, right? But really, you have to go spend your time out in the field and get it done. Start out with the level 1, and you'll actually see here. You see them in parentheses. This is where they actually share a lot of the same content, but they do diverge. We get up to the number 10, the X over there. It's the lubricant roles and functions. That's where MLA2 and ML3 start really getting into more detail. Not necessarily covered in the MLA1s, but it is covered in the 2s and the 3s. Goes into quite a bit of detail. And it isn't until we get into analyzing lubricant degradation and program development that MLA3 really starts to shine. That's not necessarily covered in the 2 and the 1, but they go into a lot of detail there. That's where it really starts departing and diverging from that as well. I'll talk a little bit about the LLA1 and LLA2. You know, these are my favorite certifications. That laboratory lubricant analyst, and that's not because I'm just a bench geek and like all the sciencey stuff. Well, I do, but the bottom line is I think that if you're going to embrace oil analysis, to understand how these tests are done and really getting deep into the instrumentation, get an appreciation for the data interpretation, the quality control, and whatnot. These are great certifications. They go this is the type of certifications that go beyond those for the folks that are in a laboratory. I know we talked about this earlier. The level 1 is for the technicians, and the level 2 for the diagnostician and lab managers. But really, if you got one of those folks out there in your organization, and they really just got such a talent and a love and a passion for oil analysis and tribology and whatnot, that's a great certification to go for. It really is. I mean, you don't have to be a lab rat to actually go and have this certification. Very applicable, very useful out in the field to understand data and really truly get into it rather than just taking things at face value. Getting one of these certifications is great. And this is one of those things that you probably have to work on levels as well. It is ISO the 18436-5 compliant. Start with level 1. It's going to prep you great for the level 2. You'll see level 1. It's 4 major sections. There's calibration, reagent management, lubricant health monitoring, a lot of tests, sample handling preparation. Level 2 gets into some serious detail with compatibility analysis, contamination analysis, wear debris analysis. Gets into a lot of stuff with data interpretation as well. The LLA 2 and 1, they're fantastic. I couldn't recommend them higher. And really, there's not a lot of folks out there that even offer up these classes. I know Rich does. I do. Heck, I think we might be the only ones out there. But anyway, they're just fantastic. And hopefully there's going to be a lot more people out there opening up these classes too. I mean, I don't mind the competition at all. Heck, rising tide lifts all ships. I think the more people that take advantage of this, the better we're all going to become. I think these are fantastic certifications. Highly recommend them. Now here's the crown jewel for the ICML, the Machinery Lubrication Engineer, the MLE. Boy, I tell you what, ICML put a lot of time into developing this. A lot of folks had their hand in establishing this certification. There's a lot of material here. It's not an easy exam to pass either. Let me tell you, it's about 50 of us got this thing. There's 23 different areas to really focus on, from asset management down to continuous improvement, from planning to periodic task like support, risk management, oil reclamation, tribology, a lot of stuff in here. Not an easy exam to pass, a lot of stuff to study. Once again, looking into this thing, I recommend, and like I said, ICML doesn't necessarily come out there and tell you how long a class you should be taking, but you got to take a class that's at least 40 hours worth of content here. And before you take a class, you really got to have at least 5 years experience, bone up on this stuff. Do a lot of reading on the content that they tell you to have a good familiarity with as far as the body of knowledge goes. And you might stand a chance of actually passing this thing. Now, with all these things, I want to bum out if you fail the first time around. Big deal. Who cares? Nobody cares but you. And quite frankly, if you just buckle down and keep on studying, you'll eventually pass the darn thing. But this is a really good, great engineering certification to have. Not many of them have. And I tell you what, you master this content, and it means something. You actually become valuable to yourself and to the world around you. Now, the CLS, the old granddaddy of them all. Heck, people have been having this CLS for 20 some odd years, right? Everybody's got their CLS. Now, actually, not many people at all have it. It's about 1,200, 1,300 people, but a lot of people know about it. It's internationally known as Certified Lubrication Specialist. There's about 20 different areas to focus on. Now, the CLS is different than the other ones in several different respects. One thing, they go into pneumatics, go into seals, they explore metalworking fluid, solvents and cleaners. Those are the things that aren't covered in any of those. Now, I did talk a little bit about solvents and so forth, and maybe the LLA 1 and 2. Maybe touched upon seals and the MLT and a little bit of MLA. But I tell you, the CLS really goes into detail, especially in metalworking fluid, problem solving and lubrication programs as well. So it does depart drastically from, say, the MLE. It's a different certification, and that's the bottom line. Now, like I said, sales guys used to take this, become more valuable to their clients and so forth. This is the type of thing that actually any professional in the world of lubrication should have. If you're working for if you're working for a mine, working for a fleet, working for a factory, and whatever industry you're in, working for a lubricant company, a distributor, a CLS is a good certification to have. Now we have the OMA, OMA 1. I told you we're not going to talk about the OMA 2 today. Just going to focus on the OMA 1, the Oil Monitoring Analyst. And here they have 6 basic areas that you have to master. Fundamentals, machine wear, application sampling, analyzing lubricant degradation, wear debris analysis, and program development. About 500 people with OMA. It's actually it's a great certification as well. A lot of times before ICML really started several years ago, when it was just STLE, people with a CLS would get their OMA. They'd start out, it's really interesting, they'd start with a CLS and then get their OMA. And then it started becoming where people would say, okay, I'll start with the OMA, and it would prep me for the CLS. Well, they're just not alike. I mean, I guess they probably could support each other, but OMA doesn't necessarily prepare you for the CLS, and the CLS doesn't prepare you for the OMA. And when you go into the fundamentals, that's probably in the machine wear, that's when they really start sharing a lot of content, but they start splitting off pretty quickly. So really, they complement each other. Now this particular slide, the next two, the reason why we're having this webinar today. This actually was used back in the competency development webinar we did a few weeks ago, and it shows the content comparison between the MLTs all the way down to the OMAs. And you'll see where actually you can see how these things build on each other. And here we're going between the MLTs all the way down to the OMAs. And you'll see where actually you can see how these things build on each other. And here we're going into another comparison, obviously going from gears all the way down to lubricant health monitoring. Once again, comparing the different types of certifications that are available. You'll see how they depart. You'll also notice the MLE seems to be touching upon everything always. A lot of content there. And once again, we're looking at from lubricant manufacturing all the way down to safe handling and preparation and so forth and so on. You see where the MLA starts departing. We started the MLA 3, it's going into a lot more detail. LLA 1 and 2, they start emerging, but once again, we still have the MLE. It starts covering a lot of content there. And finally, we round it out. Now, here's where we actually see seals and solvent cleaners. Only CLS covers that. And then MLE, well, I go on to some supplier compliance and alignment as well. Transportation lubricants, everybody looks at that. But, you know, there's only MLE and CLS really get into some turbines as well. Everybody gets into wear debris analysis to some extent. But here we're looking at some recommended class hours, as well as years experience.
Okay, everyone, sorry about that. It looks like there was a little bit of technical difficulty there. My name is Matt Spurlock. The presentation was just getting ready to come to a close. Michael had about 32 minutes of a presentation. So just to kind of wrap up Mr. Holloway's discussion, there are a lot of lubrication and oil analysis certifications out there. What you need to do is be able to review this recording. We will have this posted up on the web. Review this recording. Review the bodies of knowledge for each of those, and figure out what is best for you and your team. And just kind of a quick recap: MOT level 1 and level 2 are more focused for the technician level. The MLA track is MLA 1, 2, and 3 is recognized, and it's in accordance with ISO 18436-4 certification. The OMA 2 or the OMA 1 and 2 are also equivalent to the ISO 18436-4 bodies of knowledge. Those are actually more equivalent to the MLA 2 and 3, but as Michael pointed out, there's quite a bit of overlap and interchange between them both. The LLA, Laboratory Lubricant Analysis certifications, are in accordance with ISO 18436-5. And then, of course, the top tier certifications are both the MLE, Machinery Lubrication Engineer, which is offered by the International Council of Machinery and Lubrication, and the CLS, Certified Lubrication Specialist. So it looks like Michael Holloway is back on an audio standpoint, so I will turn this back over to him.
Hey, thanks a lot, Matt. I certainly appreciate y'all patience for sticking through this. And at the very end, we did have a little bit of technical issues. Don't really understand why. Internet can be a fickle thing, especially when there's a lot of people trying to fill up the pipeline. But I certainly do appreciate y'all sticking around. I do quite a bit of this certification preparation. It's the only thing I do, actually. Do a little bit of writing on the side that pays for the toys. But the cert preps, be it online, offline, in person, off person, on site, whatever you need, feel free to contact me. I know the other guys get involved in this as well. So really do look forward to trying to helping you out as much as I can going forward. And keep an eye on the next webinars coming through. We're going to keep on putting these various things on throughout the months to come. We're having a blast doing it, learning a lot doing it as well, meeting some great people. So please stay in touch. We really do look forward to hearing from you. Drop us a line. Looks like we got Rich Warsbach coming up here in a minute, and then Mike Johnson's going to be doing a presentation. So I don't know if Rich had anything to say or Mike wanted to add anything.
Yeah, Mike, I saw a question. I'm sorry if you saw this or didn't see this, but Doug Sackett asked about CMRP. I don't know if you wanted to address that question at all.
Yeah, actually I do. That's a great certification. Now, all these different certification preparation classes, there's a bunch of companies out there that put them on. There's about 35, 40 internationally. The governing bodies out there recognize a bunch of them. There's some out there that just do it to try to make money, and some of them are actually quite good. The CMRP, though, is through the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals, and they have their own certifications. They touch a little bit on lubrication, really focus on reliability. Now, there are preparation classes. If you went into SMRP's website, they do recognize a few organizations that do put on preparation classes for those certifications. I would suggest doing that. One of these days, I'm going to turn around and get something like that. I know Spurlock has his, and I believe he also does a bit of that certification prep as well for CMRP. But anyway, go ahead, Matt. You got something to say?
Yeah, sure. If you are thinking of challenging yourself with the CMRP, I encourage you to really do an in-depth analysis on yourself, on your knowledge, because if you've been only focused in lubrication for your career and not more the broad spectrum of maintenance and reliability, then CMRP is going to be difficult. I've taken every certification test from a lubrication standpoint, and it's never taken me more than 45 minutes to complete and pass any one lubrication certification, with the exception of the MLE. That one took just over an hour. But with the CMRP exam, I was literally circling in my last answer when they called time. It's a very difficult exam. It's beyond. So Doug, if you're still on, the reason why CMRP would not have been included in this presentation is because this is focused predominantly on lubrication and oil analysis certifications, and that is just a very, very tiny micro subset of what you have on the CMRP. That's a challenging test. I do have what I believe to be the holy grail of a study manual for that, that I can that I've given out multiple times. So be careful if you sit for that. It's a tough exam, but when you pass it, you sure as heck know that you've accomplished something in the world of maintenance and reliability.
It's a great point, Matt. Thanks a lot. You know, it does raise another point too. If you're going to take one of these classes, you got an instructor who's trying to shepherd you through this, make sure they got the certifications as well, because there's some folks out there that, you know, they think they have the body of knowledge understood, and they think they put the time in, but really look at their pedigree, look to see what they've done, look to see what kind of things they've accomplished and what kind of certifications they have. Don't be taking a class from someone who's got nothing behind their name. That means a lot. I would never take I know there's a lot to be said for world experience, but, at the end of the day, there's a reason why professors have PhDs, and the reason why when you're working on your graduate degree, that typically most all professors, not all, but most every single professor has their doctorate. There's reasons why. Just don't take anything from somebody coming off the street who thinks they know what they're talking about. Take one of these classes, study with somebody who's actually been through the paces and has got something behind their name. That way you're going into working with someone who's actually gone through the process. It's really important. NLGI has a certification as well for Certified Lubricating Grease Specialist. Fantastically difficult exam, has a higher, incredibly low pass rate. I think only 1 or 2 people have passed that in the past 6 years. And it's got you have to pass with greater than 80%. All the other exams, you pass with a 70. This got to pass with an 80. It's very difficult, but that's something else to look into. Another webinar, we'll talk more about that. But I know Rich is chomping at the bit. He's got a few things to say.
Yeah, Mike, I just want to follow on what you said there about the requirements or the certification of the instructor. And more recently, ICML has changed their engagement on instructors, and it's now a requirement of a new form that all ICML or instructors that are training and requesting ICML exams after the training, it's requiring them to sign. And part of that is to, at a minimum, have the level of certification that you're going to be teaching.
Very true. It's something to consider too. It really is. I know one thing, and I know I can come across a little braggy from time to time. Any of those guys, any of y'all who know me know that I got a big ego, but a really bigger heart. But I have all the certifications, all 10 of them. Okay. All the ones that ICML offers, and as well as 2 of the 4 that STL offers. I'll get my OMA too in the metalworking one, and I'll go and get the one from NLGI. I don't do this to be braggy, and I don't do this to try to show off. I really don't. What I want to do is I want to capture all this information and go through all the paces in order to understand how these exams are actually presented to you, but also prove to you that I'm worthy to stand in front of you without even opening my mouth until I open my mouth. And then I can hopefully prove to you that I am worthy to at least listen to. But really what I look forward to is learning from you as much as you can learn from me. So once again, just make sure you know what you're going into. Look at it with a jaundiced eye. But keep in mind, there's so much more to learn out there. It's crazy is that the more we read and the more we learn, the more we talk to, we realize that we really don't know as much as we ever thought we did. And the more of this stuff I study, the more I realize, oh my God, there's so much more to learn. Guys like Matt and Mike and Rich have taught me so much in the past few weeks. It's been phenomenal. And I love listening to Johnson. He's got some incredible world experience. I love Joe Bono with Spurlock because, my God, that guy's been through all kinds of stuff. He's a Marine and everything else. And Rich Wurzbach, there's nobody knows more about grease than Rich Wurzbach in the whole entire universe, I swear to God. So we got 4 people here willing to really help you out and do some great things for you. Please take full advantage of us. Let Mike talk for a little minute.
Yeah, this would be real brief. I just want to throw my thoughts behind the value of having practical, real world, out in the plant, operating machinery experience. Not that you necessarily need to be an operator of machines in production area, but that you have a really good grip on what's happening in the industrial environment before stepping into an instructor role around these specific certifications we're talking about. There are some instructors that are out there that have read a textbook or 2 and can stand up in front of a crowd and regurgitate facts. But there's a whole lot of relationship and intuition that also should be pulled into the discussion when trying to convey what the final end result precision lubrication system ought to look like. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, hey, my pleasure. And thank you. I tell you what, like we said, this has been a phenomenal experience. And I think that there's a lot more out there to learn. We all have a lot to contribute, and just looking at some of the things that some questions have been coming through. For instance, I'm in sales, but more interested in technical facts, but sales in the industry of lubricants and my job. Which certification would you recommend? Well, that's a great question. And, and that was from Lewis. I think you start out, if you're in sales, you really have to understand your end user's needs, right? So That being the case, I think the MLT1 is a great place to begin. It forms a great foundation for understanding lubricant and lubricant management. If you work for a company, a lubricant company that embraces oil analysis as a value-added contribution and as a tool, I'd say go towards the MLA then, because that one goes into a lot more depth than the MLT does with oil analysis. Although the two do share 75% of the content, MLA would be probably a good one to start out with. I don't suggest going for the MLE or the CLS right off the bat if you've never taken anything before, because you might be setting yourself up for too much. But hopefully that answers your question. Matt, I know you wanted to say something on that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Michael. In fact, I would even take it one step further and not even roll with the MLT. I would go straight with the MLA track, because it does cover the same MLT body of knowledge on that level 1, and because it's an ISO recognized certification.
Yeah, it's good. It's and the MLA's, and actually from what I've heard, and I don't know, everybody's different. Folks that are in sales and folks that are in end users tend to get they find the MLA a little bit more difficult than MLT, because it's a little bit more technical in terms of oil analysis and the chemistries. Now, that's not to say that there are a lot of people passes, but the folks that are involved in the daily grind, they find the MLAs a little bit more difficult for whatever reason if they don't have the technical background. Now, it's all graspable. It's all obtainable. If one man can pass it, another woman can pass it as well. It goes like that. But it's the MLA is just it's a fantastic certification, really is. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, Mike, I would say that for someone who's in lubricant sales, part of that might have to do with what the value proposition that they're trying to sell through their product. So if they consider their product line a superior product, that maybe the customer is going to get more life out of that, might have greater advantages in terms of the life of the assets that they're putting those lubricants in. A lot of that gets demonstrated through oil analysis. And I think, to Matt's point, the MLA kind of gives a lubricant salesperson the language of understanding that value sale, that value proposition. If you're on a commodity side of things, then you're probably looking at moving a lot of product through the people who are grabbing the grease guns and topping off oils, and being able to speak that language and understand the selection process and so forth in the MLT track might make some sense. But I think if you're a lubricant, if you're involved with a company that's really has that value proposition, I think more and more people are going to be looking for that level of knowledge. How do I extend life? How do I keep the oil clean and dry, and how do I get a maximum return on my investment?
It's a great point. It really is a very good point. The one thing, a question did come over, is that how long do these certifications last? There's a difference between a certificate and a certification. A certificate's like a high school diploma. A certification, well, it's like having your dental license. You have to keep on learning and going to seminars and keeping up with the requirements. All these certifications, they have their requirements that you have to, stay on task with. I know STLE, there's 12 different tenets. You have to fulfill 4 of the 12. With ICML, I believe there's 4 in the basic, but you have to fall into line with those as well. So that could mean attending training seminars, attending conferences, publishing papers, doing various things. And you could go online to find out what those requirements are. But I say, as long as you're involved in the business, and anyone out there who wants to co-write a paper or a book, contact me, for Pete's sakes. I'm always loving to have contact contributors work with me. It's fantastic. But it goes a long way in helping you keep your certification going, as well as taking online classes and on-site classes, going to conferences. There's a bunch of different requirements that fall into place to keep your certification active. And if you don't, you have to retake the exam. And, it's not like this thing lasts forever. You have to keep it going. It's like that. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to touch on the reason why these certifications actually expire. I got my first lubrication certification, I think, in 2003. In 2003, it might have been 2002, I don't know, but there was no such thing as the IIoT. There was no such thing as I mean, there were inline oil sensors, but they certainly weren't nearly as prevalent as what they are today. So the idea behind a certification expiring is not to be a revenue stream for the certification body. It's to ensure that the certification body understands that you are still out there, you're still in the business, you're still learning the new stuff that's coming down the pipe. The presentation that Mr. Holloway did yesterday around alarms and limits back in 2002, 2003, we talked about establishing alarms a little bit differently than the way we talk about establishing alarms today. So that's the reason it's not to be a revenue stream. It's to ensure that the people that have those credentials at the end of their name are as updated and current on the knowledge and the capabilities out there as possible.
Good point. I had here's a question here from Lewis again. Thank you, Lewis. Do we need to take the course prior to certification? Yes, you do. And I'm saying you do because you really do. You need to have some sort of instruction. Now, some folks will say, oh, no, that's not a requirement. But you know what? According to the society, depending upon what certification you're going for, they are going to require you to have some sort of background, all right? Now, do you have to prove it to them? Well, that's coming. I think it's probably coming. But the bottom line is, yeah, you should go through training because you can't go into an NFL combine, 40 pounds overweight, not being able to do a 40-yard dash in under 5 seconds. It's just not going to happen. You need to go through training, all right? It's really required. There's a lot of it out there. If you want to do it yourself, go through the body of knowledge. Both organizations provide a body of knowledge for each certification. They list out all the different books. And you want to go bury yourself in that, God bless. It's great. I mean, that's what I did. I only took one certification class ever, and that was with Ray, my old mentor, one of my close friends. He's passed away, did the CLS. But everything else, I mean, I boned up on the books and did that. And you could do that if you have self-motivation and self-study skills. Otherwise, take a course. I know I do them all the time. Rich gets involved in them. Mike does them. Rich does them. There's a few other organizations out there that put on a few decent ones every so often, but I'd take the course. My gosh, it's a great way to get the self-discipline and the direction and really the motivation to do it. It aligns you into a training program. How many of us all out there crack out 100 push-ups a day besides maybe Spurlock? I try it from time to time. I'm probably up to about 70 a day now. I'm not quite like Spurlock. He's pretty strapped. But the idea is that very few of us have the self-discipline to get up every morning and write another chapter for a book for 45 to 52 minutes, go crack out some push-ups, and then go eat 3, raw eggs. It's not easy. But if you have something that gives you some sort of direction, that's where these classes come in handy for the certification prep. Go ahead, Spurlock.
Yeah, and I'm on the ICML website right now as I speak. The ICML certifications, the MLTs, the MLAs, and the MLE. Let me confirm on the MLE, but there is there are education requirements for each certification for the ICML. So, for example, the MLA Level 1 candidate must receive 24 hours of documented formal training as outlined in the body of knowledge. So these certification bodies do require you to have X numbers of hours of training as well as X years of experience. Rich?
Yeah, when we look more closely at the MLE, that's one that does not have a training course requirement. It does have certain number of years of experience, and it does say that you're encouraged to familiarize yourself with the content and the MLA track, but it does not have a certain number of hours of training in the body of knowledge in order to sit for the MLE exam. It's the exception.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's almost as if I could go sit for my medical boards and get my MD without going to medical school. I don't recommend it. It's just, you could do it if you're one of the, you can do it. I know. But it's not necessarily recommended. The other thing to keep in mind, when we put on these courses, it's just not covering content, but you're actually sharing ideas with your cohorts and compatriots and other people in the class. That's a lot of learning goes on there, a lot of back and forth, a lot of ideas being generated. that's one of these things about these great things about some of these classes, is the fact that we can share information, but it also provides a directed path of knowledge to gain your competency. That's one of the things when we do develop competency, we have to have a discipline. Hey, you know, just had a question come through, and ICML is definitely looking into providing exams online. So they are doing that. And I know STLE has been thinking about that as well because of the whole COVID-19 and whatnot. So that will be available, actually. So keep news on that. I'll send you all out emails as I learn about it as well.
And Michael, if I could just make one more point, I meant to jump in and make it earlier, and then I'll let you close out. But everyone that's on the webinar right now, and again, we don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but the 4 people that you're listening to, Mr. Holloway, Wurzbach, Mr. Johnson, and myself, when we teach these classes, we're not only teaching you the material and the body of knowledge, we're actually teaching you two things total. We're teaching you the information that you need to know in order to prepare for the exam. Now, of course, the preparation is 100% on you. The second thing that each of the 4 of us teach you is not only what's textbook right, but we also teach you things that we have seen that have taken you close enough to textbook. So there's a difference between textbook best practices and what's financially feasible and what can work in reality. And that's how you're going to know that you've stumbled across a solid instructor, because they can teach you both textbook as well as teach you what's actually going to work and is financially feasible for your particular application. And that's all I wanted to add there, Holloway.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you know, the textbooks, trust me, because I have a very fond love of textbooks. I've actually written a few. The whole idea, though, is that it's a foundation that you can build from. All right. And in perfect case scenario, you can follow the letter of the law, but that doesn't always work. But you have to start someplace. You know, I'm remiss in saying this too. I did take another prep class besides my CLS. I took the LLA with Rich Wurzbach at his facility. Great class. I love Rich as an instructor too, because he's down to earth, but he's just a brilliant genius when it comes to a lot of these things. Great class too. So I learned a lot, and this is why I just decided to go through the LLA 1 and 2 and offer those up too, because of his class. He just provided such great direction and instruction. Really enjoyed the hell out of it. And you know, the idea though is that this is how you can become really good. You know, take advantage of us to learn how to become a teacher yourself. You know, the best way to capture and really understand this stuff is go and try to teach it to somebody else. And I would encourage that. You know, if you guys want to do a train the trainer, get in touch with us. We get involved in that too. This is the only way we're all going to get better, is if we constantly look to build each other up. Go ahead, Rich. I know you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, Mike, you had mentioned there you had a question that came through about virtual classes to prepare for the exams, and you had mentioned about ICML's current effort. And I just did get some updates this week. ICML has engaged companies to develop online testing capabilities, and the staff is projecting the end of May to target online MLA and MLT level 1 exams. We'll have to see how that pans out over the next month, but in terms of the schedule they've laid out, they're looking to try to do that. The other thing you mentioned was about checking the credentials of those who might train a class that you're looking to take. I just want to point out that both STLE and the ICML websites have certified professional search pages, so that you can go back and see who currently holds each of those certifications by perhaps entering that person's name, or some cases you can put, you know, what the specific certification is. But that's a resource that's out there for folks to be able to check up on things. So I just want to mention that about the real progress that ICML is making. And then, as you said, several of us are doing the online training, and that's another great thing that people can be doing now when they're still social distancing.
Absolutely. No, this is good. It looks like we're rounding up to the hour. We're going to keep this thing live and going. Okay. Now, you can go grab yourself a sandwich or something if you're around North America, where we're actually turning into lunchtime. We're going to have Mike Johnson kick in about an hour and 8 minutes on his presentation. I definitely want to pay attention to that one. Johnson always puts on one hell of a good show. He's just a well of information, great guy, real passionate about this whole world of reliability and lubrication. Got a lot of good content coming your way. Took a peek out of it. Like I said, when you talk to Warsbach and Spurlock and Johnson, you can't go wrong with those three monkeys. They're amazing. So, hey, listen, thank you so much. Please stay in touch with us. We do look forward to hearing from you. Email me at holloway@fifthorderindustry.com, and that's with a 5. Don't spell it out. Just use the number 5. It's on your keyboard. It's in between the R and the T. You'll find it. Anyways, thank you so much. Please stay in touch. If Rich, Matt, or Mike want any parting statements, go for it. We're going to keep this thing up and running. So you can either log out and log back in for Mike's presentation, or stay on board and stick around. Not a whole lot's going to be going on for the next hour, but hey, you never know. Maybe there'll be a surprise that gets popped in every few minutes.